Hello, telephone. I'm sitting in a chair outside in the sunshine in front of a lake with lily pads and glistening ripples of sunlight dashing across my eyeballs. Just had a cup of tea, and I have a hernia. I've got a hernia just above my stomach, and it's causing a lot of problems with it's allowing gases to escape from my stomach and travel upwards, and it's clashing with something that's happening in my throat where stuff is dropping down, and so I've got quite a war zone going on in my pipes, and I end up in a lot of pain very often, and it's early days yet as to know what we're going to do about it. It's going to be an X-ray. I've already had a camera down my throat, which I don't recommend. It's not an essential life experience, okay? Excuse me. How attractive. Right. Alright, well I may as well get some serious stuff off my chest while I've got some material stuff on my chest. It's oh god. I'm starting to get worried, seriously worried about the escalation of the anger around the world, and you're absolutely right to be angry. I think the problem is that we're all using ever so slightly different language to express that anger, and some of that language is clashing with other people's language, and that's causing more anger. It's certainly not trivializing anybody's anger, because anger is not a trivial thing. It is a genuine thing. It is as true a reaction as a laugh. A laugh is a true reaction, and things like anger and laughter, or just emotions in general, really, they happen in advance of our consciousness. They're a little bit like when your hand jumps away from a flame before you completely are aware of your hand in the flame. It's a mechanism. It's part of the body politic that we are, as citizens, obliged to serve with duty. I can say that with all confidence because our bodies, let's just say, live fast and die young gets less appealing once it starts to work. Living slow and dying old is far more appealing, and I sincerely recommend breathing slower. Yes, I'm getting worried. Right, here we go. I am about peace. I've always been about peace. As Charles Bukowski said, and I've said it quite a few times, there's my shoe. Look at that. Alright? Okay. That's been on my shoe for like a good few years now. That's always been me, and I am starting to feel that there's an expectation and pressure coming from both the left and the right for me to push this aside, because both sides feel they're right about the other side, and this makes me a traitor in some kind of way, shape or form to a lot of people, and to that I seriously say fuck you. Seriously. Actually, do you know what? I've never honestly, genuinely told people fuck you before. I've always kept it into myself. And the reason why I do that is because I'm bloody mean it about this piece of shit. Alright? I've never quite understood other people's point of view, because I don't think you genuinely ever can. I think understanding is an attitude. It's not something empirical that we can conclusively calculate and assure ourselves we have right. Because if you feel that you're right about somebody else and then you talk to them in that way and then they react in a negative way, what are the chances that you're wrong? I mean, oh God, I'm ranting now. No, I am ranting. I'm fucking ranting. That's what I'm doing. The centre is going to get lost in this battle. And a lot of people, this is one interesting side effect of what's going on in the world right now, which I actually, if you take a step back and pay attention to it, it's actually a rather interesting phenomenon. People weren't having conversations about World War II and philosophy before 9/11. That all started. My tidy explanation for this is that when 9/11 happened, I think the media sort of let us down and didn't get into the reasons why we were hated, and we gradually sort of started to find out for ourselves. And for those of you outside of this world thinking it's that not this world but my world, if you know what I mean, you know what I mean by that, I hope, for God's sake. When you use a word that gives you domino wanderings in your brain and it actually interrupts your own train of thought. Well, there's a one. If other people can derail your conversation, maybe it's because you've got a one-track mind. Ha! Ha ha! The world functions on so many scales and dimensions and rhythms and melodies, and some of it's in harmony and some of it's a discourse, and the idea of absolute certainty being as relevant tomorrow as it was yesterday, it's like no. Context is a perpetual shifting mechanism, as defined by experiencing new information, as defined by the adaptation of the beings we inhabit, as defined by the ever-changing mechanisms of our bodily functions, as defined by the fact that everybody we ever meet is part of an environment, and the fact that everybody we ever meet is currently different to who they were yesterday, just a little bit, maybe a big bit, who knows? Oh. See, standing in the centre and suggesting we have peace annoys the right wing, because they're like, yeah, you want to appease the people that want to take away the national character and national identity, and you want to violate the borders, and you want to do this, you're a traitor. And on the left hand side of the things, where we've got to be nicer to people and more open and more accommodating and more considerate and more tolerant and more tolerant and more tolerant and more accommodating and more tolerant, is the point that if you suggest peace, you're a Nazi. You want to be careful with this Nazi word you're bandying around, people. It's becoming a word that's losing its credibility. We live in a world of Jewish Nazis and anarchic communists. And people are absolutely certain they're using the right language. You're using the language of impatience. You're using a weak language of asserting the adopted slogans are the necessary truth in order to establish the world as it's supposed to be. No. If you're using other people's slogans, it's because you've found yourself a nice little group to skulk in. Any group that you belong to requires, by its own rules, that your individuality gets trimmed a little bit. All group requires that. Some groups are more self-aware than others about it. They have like sacrifice rituals and all this sort of stuff. But Some of you are a little bit unaware of this one. Pausing this video because I'm reaching the 10-minute mark. There!